Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Moving from a bank-dominated financial system to a system with more diverse sources of financing remains highly in the agenda of EU policymakers and regulators. Such move will create more opportunities to private equity funding instead of loan funding, and will reduce the risks of over-relying in the banking sector. And for these initiatives to succeed, the European Capital Markets Union is continuously looking to promote European venture capital by investing strong reserves of capital in the hands of private equity fund managers. Cyprus, being within the EU, has looked into capitalizing on such initiatives through the creation and promotion of the funds industry. Our funds legal network is now fully compliant with EU and OECD standards for anti-money laundering and insider dealing, whereas our tax framework offers one of the most attractive fund tax regimes in Europe, both at the level of the fund manager and the investors, as well as at the level of the fund. Today, this industry has become our new subsector of our financial services offering, with an increasing important role to play in raising finance to invest, generating new jobs and wealth, and playing a leading part in the recovery of our economy. Current statistical data shows increasing numbers, both in the number of Cyprus investment firms and administrative service providers, but most importantly is the increase in the alternative investment funds, which have increased in the last 2 years to 234, an increase by 100. There is also an increase in the authorized external fund managers from 9 to 20 in the last two years, as well as the fund management companies for UCITS and the number of UCITS that have been registered in Cyprus. The net assets under management have reached 3.6 billion euro and are mainly invested in equity and real estate. Looking at the 2018 investment activity in the financial services sector as an example, we expect a year of robust NMA activity as non-sector players, such private equity houses and pension funds, continue to actively pursue deals. In fact, we see this in Cyprus the last 2 days, where well-known private equity funds bidding to invest in our banking system. At the same time, we expect fintech-related deals to remain competitive and growing. Overall, we expect the value and volume of NMA deal activity in the financial services sector to increase by more than 10% for 2018, amid numerous positive factors that include proposed removals of barriers to EU banking mergers, increased focus on M&A to drive transformation of insurance, strength of the Asian and US economies, the increasing role of private equity and new entrants in the market, and rising interest rates. We further expect the 2018 deal activity to be very strategic, as the entire financial services sector faces huge demand for transformation and innovation that will drive greater customer engagement and top-line growth. The focus globally will be on deals that provide opportunities to transform business models, access emerging innovative technologies, and opportunities to modernize operating models. Therefore, market participants in Cyprus, with the support of the Cyprus Investment Funds Association, are continuously looking to attract international fund managers in using registered Cypriot funds as investment vehicles, as Cyprus can play an important role as a regional fund center of excellence due to its strategic position. For example, Cyprus is the ideal location for investing in Egypt, firstly due to its proximity that will enable fund managers to ongoing monitoring their investments in the nearby country, and secondly, due to the existence of a double tax treaty between the two countries. In a similar manner, investments in Greece may be financed through the use of investment funds set up in Cyprus in order to attract investors due to the attractive legal and tax framework Cyprus is offering to fund managers and prospective investors. The fundraising environment is proving especially tough as some investors adopt a more cautious approach to asset class as a result of decreased returns during the global financial crisis. Investors are now seeking improved returns for lower fees and greater transparency. A fund manager operating from Cyprus can reach investors for fundraising in countries with positive GDP growth rates in the CIS and MENA regions. And it is interesting to note that the main investors committing to European private equity funds are based in the Middle East or Asia. Since the financial crisis and the consequent contraction of bank credit, funds have increasingly filled the space that banks used to occupy, and an array of new fund types have been created under the broad umbrella of alternative credit. Regulators are starting to take a closer look at these funds, some acknowledging that there is a need to do more to facilitate the creation of funds that could foster economic growth. In Cyprus, the enactment of the AIF law in July 2014 provided for a significant modernization of the related legal framework, offering new structuring options whilst achieving the right balance between the freedom of operation of the asset manager and the protection of investors. Furthermore, new legislative measures now in Parliament will introduce an updated version of the AIF law that will also incorporate the registered AIFs regime. This regime will facilitate the quick and efficient registration of new funds that will not require authorization by the regulator, but only from authorized alternative investment fund managers, reducing the registration time from 3 months to 3 weeks. Such funds may be set up using a corporate structure with fixed or variable capital, or a contractual structure in a form of a limited partnership or common fund, whereas the alternative funds, which drive the growth of the funds industry in Cyprus, can accommodate a number of investment objectives such as private equity, infrastructure, real estate, and hedge funds. As an example, a growth area for funds in Cyprus currently is the manufacturing of financial products, particularly around shipping and aviation. In particular, Cyprus being the second largest ship management center in the EU and the third largest merchant fleet, we have an opportunity to market Cyprus as a place for alternative finance for ships using capital markets. The tonnage tax system, which is currently in force in Cyprus, enhances the already very favorable taxation framework of AIFs. The assets will be registered predominantly under the Cyprus flag and taxed under the tonnage tax system. Hence, the fund will be totally exempt from taxation and its operating profits and any capital gains realized. Furthermore, the development of the private equity funds in the real estate sector remains a priority for investments within Cyprus and abroad, as this will help successful companies to have a better future and good growth potential through the restructuring of their debts and improving the capital invested. An indicative structure of a real estate fund is the setup of a variable capital investment company, where the capital may automatically be increased or decreased as investors come in and out of the fund. Such investment company may be internally managed by its board of directors or externally managed, while the holding of management shares, which are the voting shares, may provide the promoter with control over the company's affairs. The real estate fund can be established with several investment compartments, sub-funds, so-called, each constituting a separate pool of assets and liabilities. Each investment compartment has its own investment objectives and policies and can cater for different asset types such as commercial and hospitality. Each compartment has its own separate NAV calculation and issues and redeems units corresponding to its assets. Another type of a fund set up in Cyprus is a private label fund. This is geared for wealthy individuals and family offices, as it allows the grouping of assets under an umbrella structure with no cross-liability between the sub-funds, while the investment objectives and restrictions are being determined by the fund promoter. Additionally, such structure ensures an ongoing tax compliance and provides for a dedicated method of valuation of the family assets at regular intervals, whereas money may be withdrawn through flexible redemption procedures. However, to develop further the funds industry, asset managers need to be more agile, flexible, and responsive than ever, as client expectations are dramatically evolving, making customer outcomes and the overall customer experience critical to future success. Cyprus has aligned its national regime by closely mirroring the regimes established under the UCITS, the Alternative Investment Fund Managers and MiFID directives. What is important to note is that for alternative funds, a MiFID investment firm may be appointed as the AIF's manager, subject, of course, not to exceed the relevant thresholds, and provided that this does not constitute a major source of income. In this area, it has been decided to introduce a licensing requirement supervision regime for the Cyprus sub-threshold alternative investment fund manager, which will be known as the mini manager. The aim being to provide a reasonable and proportionate sub-threshold manager. This mini manager could manage AIFs with limited or unlimited number of persons, register AIFs taking the form of a limited partnership, and non-Cypriot AIFs, subject to the discretion of such competent authority in the other jurisdiction. The relevant legislation is in the office now of the Attorney General for final approval. In a similar manner, the relevant framework that regulates the provision of fund administration services has undergone an upgrading process that will strengthen governance requirements and is being reviewed by the regulator before submission for final approval. Looking at the challenges of the Cyprus funds industry as a final topic of my presentation, I would like to start with the impact of Brexit in the area of financial services. We are closely monitoring these developments, as Cyprus could well be an alternative solution, being a reliable member of the EU and Eurozone, but also a country with a broader outlook that can be a strategic partner in the UK. We have common law, we have simple taxation based on UK principles, we speak the language, and we have the skills. Cyprus also is the island of safety, stability, offering opportunities for business investment and cooperation in the region. Hence, for example, Cyprus-based alternative investment fund managers could provide fund housing services to UK managers by offering a platform to run their funds on, including all supporting administration services. Looking to expand in other markets to achieve investment growth of our economy is another challenge. We have to be innovative and be aware of how the world is changing and adapt accordingly. For example, we are aware that China is gradually opening up its financial markets to foreign investors, but vehicles for investing in assets linked to Chinese economy are still limited. We are also aware that China's gigantic €7 trillion funds industry is said to be looking for fund jurisdictions to attract capital from abroad, and particularly from Europe. Therefore, we are currently promoting that Cyprus may be used for the establishment of regulated fund structures to attract investors from Europe, Russia, and Middle East to invest in China, now that they are easing the limitations on shareholdings by foreign investors. Lastly, the other challenge that I would like to mention today relates to the emergence of fintech and its implication for financial services and investment funds, and our ability to adapt and excel in this field. The incredibly rapid rate at which new technology is adopted is one of the standout features of the modern age, and the pace of development will only increase. Fintech should be looked as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reimagine and modernize the funds industry, and for this purpose, experts in the field are monitoring these technological changes and advise our regulator to take action where necessary to enable the funds industry to grow. For example, we are now working closely with the regulator to enable the application of new funds to be submitted electronically and allow the promoters to check any time the progress until final approval. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever the challenges, we in Cyprus are well positioned to support the full operational life cycle of an investment fund, providing foreign investors as well as fund promoters a uniquely competitive entry to Europe's capital markets, as well as the necessary financial instruments that serve to protect and enhance investment value. We would therefore welcome you to consider expanding your operations in the region by setting up regional funds in Cyprus or setting up a fund management company for your operations. In closing, I would like to thank the organizers of the event for giving us the opportunity to present the importance of Cyprus as a base for asset management activities in the region, and thank you all for your attention.